Welcome to the 29th episode of Redeeming the Time. I am your host, Jake Wells. This is my dad, my co-host, Keith Wells. And this is the first time recording on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So
why are we recording on a Sunday?
Well, because we got back from Peru real late on Friday, and then I didn't wake up until the afternoon the next day. So we're doing it in between services. So
Welcome home.
We're recording the day before.
Yeah, welcome home. We were a month ahead. I mean, but with all the youth trips and summer, we knew this was coming. So we prepared ahead of time. So tell us, how was the trip?
It was awesome. Traveling was rough with the flight, and then once we got there, and to get back to Lima, it was an 8-hour bus drive because you have to go up into the mountains. So
you said Lima was quite dirty.
Yeah, it's not the most beautiful city in the world. But the trip was amazing. We went down there with Jonathan Matthews, and he has a partnership with Ade and Rachel Yanka and their two boys. And
she's from Ohio, right?
Yeah, she went to Cedarville. She grew up in Delaware, right above where we stayed as a youth group. So,
but he's from there, and he's
Quechuan. Yeah.
So how'd they meet? Through translators?
She went down to be an English teacher with Wycliffe, and they met through that. So, and they had a crew that was awesome. Yay, if you're watching, shout out to you, man. He was awesome. He's their video guy.
Okay.
And he's got a YouTube page and everything.
Oh, really?
So
okay.
He is very good. He had a drone and everything. So
that's cool. I'm looking forward. Yeah, Justin had a drone, and I'm looking forward to seeing the drone footage on this. And we'll have a service where they'll share about the trip and the Guatemala trip, and which is in a week from now. And what the teens did. So we'll put all that into one smashing service.
Yeah.
So we
passed out nearly 1,000 Bibles.
That's awesome.
So,
and they're not like little New Testaments. They are thick Bibles, hardcover Bibles. So.
Yeah, because they haven't had a full Bible in their language
ever
till 4 years ago.
And it took 50 years?
Yeah, some upwards of that. Yeah.
That's incredible.
One of the guys that was with us who sang, he was one of the guys who translated, which was his.
And he's 75 now.
Yeah, and he's beating us all up the hills and everything.
Well, they do live out there. You got to give him a little bit of that.
He was a stud. But just the openness to having a Bible for the first time.
And they let you in the schools, right?
Yep. Yeah.
That's incredible.
And the kids, they had a story Bible for the kids, and they were so excited about it. And
I was always amazed, when we've gone to other countries. Brazil did, when we were in Sao Paulo, they let us into the schools and let us share the gospel in the schools.
Different culture.
Yeah. I mean, in America, every parent in the world would be screaming bloody murder.
Yeah. One of the things that stuck out to me is Jonathan was talking about this, and why not just give them a Spanish Bible, because they know Spanish and Quechuan. And he used the analogy of eating soup with a fork and a spoon. With a fork, if you eat, you'll get some of it, and you'll get the gist of what it tastes like, but it's nothing like eating it with a spoon.
Yeah.
And having a Spanish Bible is like eating it with a fork. You get some of it, but not the whole brevity of the Word of God, and having it in your native tongue.
Yeah, they call it your heart language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with Jonathan and with Rachel, she still does all of her devotion time in English, because that is who she.
Yeah, sure.
And Jonathan does the same thing, because that's
speaks to their mind and their heart.
Yeah, and you pray in English and stuff like that. So.
Well, that's cool.
Yep, it was an awesome trip. So.
Well, good. We will most likely be taking that trip again. We had it scheduled for the year COVID hit, and we actually had the airfare bought. We had $26,000 worth of airfare, because that and the Brazil trip were purchased, and fortunately we bought it on American Express, and we were able to get it refunded. So that was very good.
Yeah.
So scary. All right, so where are we today?
We have Proverbs 7 through 26.
All right. I love Proverbs. I said that last time. And we enter into the last three chapters that are sort of narrative, poetic. Narrative is probably not the right word, but it's a continual thought for the most part. And then we enter in chapter 10. We enter a new section. We'll talk about that when we get there. So Proverbs 7 connected highly to Proverbs 5 and 6. This is seduction. And remember we said last week Proverbs 6 was more toward a married man and him falling into temptation sexually. And now we have for the young man that is not married for the most part. Verses 1 through 5, listen to me, son, that type of thing. And then verses 6 through 24, we see a simple young man, meaning not smart. Someone that's not looking around. Doesn't mean that they lack intelligence. It means they lack showing their intelligence. And they fall prey to the seductive, strange woman.
Mm-hmm. As an ox that goeth to its slaughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Verse 9 talks about how in the twilight, in the evening, in the black and dark night. Get the point? Every teenager in the world is like, what's the big deal? It's only, it's till midnight or 1 a.m. It's no big deal. No. Darkness has always been used by man to cover up sin. Mm-hmm. God sees everything, but yet in our mind, in the twilight, evening, black and dark night, that's what happens.
Yeah. I saw 26 and 27, for she hath cast down many wounded, yea, many strong men have been slain by her. Her house is the way to hell, going down to the chambers of death.
Yeah.
This is nothing to mess with, and her house is death.
Yeah. There's some things to point out here. Our society tries to point out that, well, men, you shouldn't be lusting after this lady. It doesn't matter what she wears. That's on you. No, not completely here. Verse 10 and 11, her attire, she's subtle, she's loud, she's stubborn, she's not at her home. And then verse 12, she lieth in wait at every corner. Not just one, every corner. The point is, this isn't a single incident. This happens everywhere around the world, every night. Every college campus, every the bar scene out there, and or discotheque if you go to Europe, it's everywhere. And we are foolish when we do this. And verses 13 through 21, the seductive lies that she says to him, and then the destructive nature for just a moment of pleasure. And how does this happen? Because we're controlled by our feelings, and our desires lead then to our demise and entangle us. And by the end of this, 25 through 27, they shackle us. So that's what he's pointing out to us. Yes, everyone can fall into this. So we need to be careful. So that's 7.
Number 8 is like the announcement for wisdom.
Right.
And unto you, O man, I call.
Yeah, you guys were gone. I actually preached on chapter 1 and 8 the week you guys were gone. And there's no surprise that 8 follows 7. There's this definite comparison of here we have the guy that follows after sinful woman, and now we have the personification of wisdom as a woman as well. So the contrast is significant here.
Yeah, I found this chapter pretty interesting with wisdom in creation. I found that pretty. Did God create wisdom, or did God just understand wisdom, or is God wisdom? Like, it just, that concept. I was doing that in the plane actually. I just sat back and was like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah. So before we get to that part, verses 1 through 3. Wisdom, she cries out. I mentioned this in the sermon, but if you're watching this, you didn't listen to the sermon. The whole point is she's not hiding. She's there. She's at the top of the high places. Look at me, look at me. She's at the doors. She's at the gates. All of those places. She's not hard to find. We just don't seek her. Verses 4 through 10. She makes promises that are not based on lies, like we saw the lady there in chapter 7. And she brings, she tells them what she's going to bring to you. And then verses 12 through 21, she describes herself and what she provides. Verse 17, those that seek me early shall find me. It's too late once we face this situation. You and I've talked about this, growing up. You don't make the decision that...
Because your flesh will fail.
Yeah, you will fail. You make this decision ahead of time. You think, you're prepared. So those types of things.
Yeah, with the personification, I was kind of remembering that it was wisdom and not like a person or God speaking. It is
like
your mind's understanding of living is speaking on this. I don't know. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, so 22 through 31, she was there before creation. A lot of people try to describe maybe that because it talks about how the creation, that Jesus Christ is wisdom. I think, obviously he is wisdom, but it's this set of, it's not even rules. It's just this set of understanding, discretion, wisdom that God uses. There is a sensibility to why things are. He thought through all of this, and that was there from the very beginning. Before the world was, God was there. This chapter is awesome. I love it. Personified in Christ, yes, without a doubt. But almost a level of attainment and practice, I guess. That was the words I put down.
Yeah. I didn't have words to describe.
Yeah, I probably don't either. But, and then there's this call to follow her, and the results of what happens when you reject her.
Mm-hmm. All they that hate me love death.
Yeah. For whoso findeth me findeth life. Yep. All those that hate me, they love death. So, use your head. You've heard that a few times in life.
Yep.
All right.
Proverbs 9.
That just came out. Sorry, man.
I feel like I'm a 10-year-old again.
Use your head,
Use
Jay.
your head, dummy. You never said dummy.
I didn't say dummy, but I did say use your head.
Proverbs 9. Wisdom hosts a banquet.
Yeah.
And she hath hewn her 7 pillars.
Hewn out our 7 pillars.
What are these 7 pillars?
Oh, I've heard people try to put names on them, but I just think the number 7 is representative of perfection, completeness. I think that's what it deals with.
Yeah.
I have heard people try to preach a sermon on that. There's nothing in the Bible that says,
I didn't find anything.
You're just making stuff up at that point.
Verses 8 and 9. You see the difference between the responses of the wise and the scorner.
Yeah.
The scorner will hate, and the wise will love thee and gain understanding and learn.
The foolish, they cause us pain when we try to help them, but a wise person will take the correction and learn. So, I'll say this again. So the foolish person, you tell them, you correct them with wisdom, they get all angry or they cause a big old scene. A wise person, it tells us they're corrected and they learn. So, you and I, everybody watching, we demonstrate if we're foolish or if we're wise based on how we respond to godly reproof.
Mm-hmm.
How do you respond to God's word and its application in your life? Are you a scorner or are you wise? Well, how you respond to God's
measurable.
word. Yeah. Which is cool.
At the end of the chapter, you see stupidity try and imitate this banquet, inviting people in and enticing them. And the people that go do not know that the dead are in the house and the guests are in the depths of hell.
Verse 10,
illustration there.
Verse 10, let me go back to that one. So if you go to Proverbs 4:7, it tells us to get understanding. But it doesn't tell us how to get understanding. Well, verse 10 tells us, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. So knowledge of the holy, that is how we gain understanding. So it gives us an answer to what we saw in chapter 4, verse 7. There's a lot of times we do this and we use some big church word or a biblical word, but we don't explain how to do that, and this does. Verses 16 through 18, the foolish woman calls, and she says, basically, it's good to be a rebel, but it brings death.
But he knoweth not that the dead are there.
Yeah, isn't this, this is basically what we hear all the time. Stolen waters are sweet. Bread eaten in secret is pleasant. Being a rebel is a wonderful thing, the world tries to tell us. And we personify it in our movies, and we even like those movies. And those are the ones that are making money. We love, how dare I say this, but we love when Maverick goes against his officer because he knows what's right versus this entire, and in the movie we write it to where he does know better. But, that's leads us to doom.
Yeah.
When Poe doesn't listen to Princess Leia, for all our Star Wars friends out there, he causes destruction of an entire fleet that didn't need to happen. So we'll move off of Star Wars.
Nerd.
I am a nerd.
I was kidding.
Gladly take that moniker.
Tuesday we got Proverbs 10 through 12, and Proverbs 10 starts a whole different section.
Yeah, these are the Proverbs from or of Solomon. And this section goes through Proverbs 22. So it's a large... in this, we're going to see very few other scripture references mentioned because they're exactly what they sound like. I don't know how you went through these. I just sort of pointed out the ones...
Yeah, I just have 4 or 5
to me. Yeah.
today. So
most of them are quite obvious what they're saying. There's a few that I thought, hey, we need to talk about that one.
Yep. So verse 1, a wise son maketh a glad father, but a foolish one is the heaviness of his mother. So why does it change from father to mother? So it's your dad is happy when you are wise, but when you act foolishly, it is heavy on your mother. And I can speak on this from experience.
Okay, go for it.
When I acted foolishly, it was heavier on my mom, I think. It was extremely heavy on my mom when I was being a doofus and or I was acting foolishly. And
you think it's because we can, for the most part, I'm not trying to be too overarching, men can segment things,
I think that
we deal with certain areas and we can compartmentalize to go to the other, and where the mom it hovers.
I think
it does happen to dads too, but
yeah, it was obviously heavy on you because you took me out of school and stuff. No, but I mean, it affected my mom's entire day. Like it was her loving kind,
her
like
thoughts.
her. Yes. I'm her baby boy, and that's the loving part of a mom that affects them in a completely different way than a dad.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. So as we go through, just one point, there's a lot of the wise versus the fool. In fact, this Sunday I'm going to speak on the ways of the fool. And when it talks about a fool, this isn't someone that is mentally deficient. That's not what it's talking about here. This is someone rather that's arrogant, self-sufficient in their eyes, sees no need for God, or refuses to follow his ways. So this is one of many, many verses telling of the heaviness and pain a foolish child inflicts on their parents, especially their mom.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. 8 and 10, I put those two together. A prating fool shall fall.
How many other times does it use that word in the Bible? Do you know?
I don't know. As the only 2 times
One other time.
Oh, where at?
3 John. Is the only time.
Oh, wow.
It's only
okay.
used 3 times in the Bible, and 2 of them are here.
Okay. So
it basically means to talk foolishly, or in Greek it means to like blabber on.
Yeah. So foolishness only lasts so long. A prating fool shall fall. You can only be foolish so long before eventually destruction comes.
Yeah.
That's what it tells us here.
It talks about the lips and the speech in your mouth a lot.
Yeah, 11 and 13 talk about that.
He that refraineth his lips is wise. Lips of the righteous feed many.
A well of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Verse 19, in the multitude of words there there wanteth no sin. So if you keep talking, eventually you're going to say something that's sinful. But he that refraineth his lips is wise. Like Jacob just said, one of the many proverbs encouraging us to speak less.
Verse 25 and 26, we kind of talked about this week. Jonathan was talking about sending people, missionary, the right people. And I think Brent quoted this. And it says, as vinegar to the teeth and as smoke to the eyes, so is the sluggard to him that send him. So basically, this is like sending the wrong person, or a sluggard does more harm than good, right? For the mission.
Yeah, there are some. I know, like in a church situation, like, why didn't you get somebody in this position yet? And to just put someone in a position just to fill a spot, that is foolish. Because one, they're going to be there for a while. If you put someone in a position, you don't just say, "Oh, I made a mistake." You've destroyed relationships. You've caused turmoil in the church, all that kind of thing. It would be better to hover and to not be efficient for a while than to put the wrong person in the wrong spot. And you pray until, as Brother Gary used to say, I think he got it from Lee Robertson, to where the question mark turns into an exclamation mark. So, and until that point, you continue on. So.
Yeah.
All right. 26, the sluggard. Yeah, you mentioned that. 31 and 32. Once again, the mouth and lips of the righteous. Wisdom.
Know what is acceptable. I just think of
what is acceptable.
Yeah, I automatically think of when someone just blabs something out and has no idea the context for the situation, and it's completely inappropriate. It's like
read the room.
You do not know what is acceptable.
Yeah. And that's something that's learned, is it not?
I've done it. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I still do, probably. You just got to constantly be thinking. So, all right, Proverbs 11. Verse 1 there. A false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. So back then, there was the whole, many of you that are my age or older, used to go into, when we lived in Deer Park till I was in second grade, there was a little local deli, more like a little grocery store called Judy's Market. Judy was a guy, by the way, at Judy's Market. And I still remember he had this scale, and he would put weights on that scale when he was measuring out like ham and turkey, that kind of stuff. Well, you want to be dishonest, you could have a couple sets of weights where, it says 1 pound on it, but it actually, it's shaved off a little bit or whatever, I guess you would add to it or something like that. So there's a lot of that you'll see here. The theme of this is dishonesty. How do we treat our fellow man in business? You might be a business owner, you might be in a situation in an office, and you're asked to do something that is just not right. And this is what this is talking about.
Yeah, and then it speaks on integrity, guides the upright.
Right. One other thing as we start to go through there, these are typically written in what are called couplets. They're comparisons or a further explanation. So they might be, this does this, this is this. And so the one is for the wicked, the one is for the righteous. So there's a comparison there. Or it's, here's this, and let me explain it a little bit more. So it's a further explanation by rewording or expounding on it. Several here are the righteous versus the wicked. So I just thought I'd point that out. It's obvious, I think, as you start to read them, but that's what's going on here.
Yeah. Verse 13, the talebearer is what
Gossip.
The gossip. And Are you are you spreading rumors of others, or are you faithful who keeps other secrets concealed? That's basically 13.
Yeah. 14, the power and safety in counselors. You're going to see that a lot. 22 is the big one. As a jewel of gold in a swine's snout, so is a fair woman which is without discretion, a.k.a. TikTok, Instagram. This is a warning for a beautiful woman to live with discretion, because your life is wasted without discretion. Yeah, you might live well for a while, but beauty is short-lived, and we need to be careful
Verse 17, I noticed
17.
what is being affected by these different actions. So
Hmm.
the merciful man doeth good to his own soul, but he that is cruel troubleth his own flesh. So it's eternal being with merciful, and then with the cruel, it's an expiring. Like you are destroying your flesh.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting.
24 and 25 go together. They speak of, it's sort of, you can see this guy out in the field. Let me just read that. There is that scattereth and yet increases. There is that withholdeth more than is meet, but it tendeth to poverty. The liberal soul, that's not talking about our political leanings. A liberal soul, one that is one to give, shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered also himself. So this is talking about sharing, scattering, investing in others versus hoarding. And you'll see this one a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
29 is a good one too. He that troubleth his own house shall inherit the wind. You're going to get what's coming to you. 30, the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that winneth souls is wise. This one's used a lot by the church, as we, living this way, the fruit of living a righteous life, and then also trying to share Christ with others is considered wise.
So at this point, I began to wonder how long this episode was going to be in chapter 12, because this is chock full of good Proverbs. And in verse 4 in chapter 12, we meet the virtuous woman, and how she is a crown upon the head of her husband.
Yeah, she either causes shame or pride, and pride in a good way. So, yeah, virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that maketh ashamed is as rottenness in her bones. And yep.
Verse 5, it speaks on the thought life of the righteous, and them being right and not perverse. And verse 8, it's interesting to me, the wise man is commended and liked, as the fool with a perverse heart is despised. And I just think our culture is kind of backwards on that.
Well, I think it is true, though, from the aspect that, like, people, they act like they like that person, but and the wicked they actually do despise.
Yeah.
Even though they're saying nice things about them to their face.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 11, we have, he that tilleth the land shall be satisfied with bread, but he that followeth vain persons is void of understanding. Now, we're not all farmers here, I understand that, but this is talking about the gain of work versus the get rich quick scheme, because that's our society today. You go online and
I work 2 days a week.
And make $11,000 a week for 2 hours, and you can spend all this time touring the rest of the world. No, that's not how life works. 15, a fool's always justified in his own thoughts, but wisdom person seeks counsel.
16, when a fool is angry, but a prudent man covers it and conceals it. And I mean, it's true. When if someone gets angry really quick,
that goes with verse 23. I was going to bring that one. A prudent man concealeth knowledge. Once again, this is the same thought. But the heart of fools proclaimeth foolishness. It's one of many verses on the prudent keeping information to themselves, or overlooking the actions of somebody else. This shows mercy and grace. We should deal with things privately many times. Not everybody needs to know your business.
Yeah.
Or the business of other people.
Yeah.
I could get up every Sunday in the pulpit and say, well, this person did this and this person did. No, what does that do? That destroys people. It should be contained within the circle of knowledge of that information. And this allows, you show respect toward people. You allow them to have some growth in their life. You give them dignity. That's an important thing.
Yeah, couple it with meekness, as you're not going up there and like, hey, this person did this, or you're just showing that you are fixing this problem, but you are showing grace and I don't know.
And then a wise person learns from that.
Yeah.
A foolish person doesn't, and eventually you do have to mention it. Okay, we've got to deal with this publicly now because you didn't learn, that kind of thing.
He talks about that with church discipline, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where you're privately and then it goes to publicly.
you go to the person directly, then you go with another person, and then you bring it in front of the church, and eventually some church action has to be taken. So, yeah.
Wednesday, Proverbs 13 through 15.
Okay.
And Proverbs 13, it starts in verse 4. It says, "The soul of the sluggard desireth, and hath nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat." And it's the hardworking being made fat. And remember that it's talking to the Israelites. It's not promising riches, but it's promising
the
that you will
overarching
be...
principle there,
Yeah.
7's similar. There is that maketh himself rich, yet hath nothing. There is that maketh himself poor, yet hath great riches. So here we have, the sowing and reaping for a hoarder versus someone that's sharing, that type of thing. That you're going to get what you do there.
I have 17.
Yep, I had 11 too, but it's a very similar thought. Go ahead.
Verse 17, "A wicked messenger falleth into mischief, but a faithful ambassador is health." And I think the main two words here, ambassador and health, where it goes back to what we were saying with sending the wrong person smoke to the eyes. But this is an ambassador of Christ for us, and we are an ambassador of Christ, and we are health to those who we are.
Yeah, what you did this last week was, for the last 2 weeks, and what we should be doing in our community as well.
Yeah.
Okay, look at 20. Tell me what 20 means to you.
He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. It's the whole, you will become who you hang around.
Yeah, you become who you hang around with, and in all different levels. In your life, you've been blessed to have some of it's because of your decisions. For those who don't know, Jacob has a group of friends. They've been friends, most of them, since like around first grade. And some of them watch. Thanks for watching, guys. And, I've got to watch these young men grow up. They were on the same ball teams together. But they made decisions that they were going to study properly. They were going to apply themselves. They were going to work. They were going to keep their nose clean type situation. And, they have grown up to be young men that are, successful and becoming successful in the careers that they're deciding. They've become a very similar type group because they've grown up together. People that have tried to come into the group that wanted to be, partiers or whatever, like they typically did not. They were booted out or decided they didn't want to be part of you because you guys were
watching Star Wars, all of the Star Wars movies in one day.
Yeah, stuff like that. But you become like who you spend time with.
Yep.
What's that guy's name? The finance guy that's on
Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey says that I don't know the exact number, but even your finances will be within $7,000 to $10,000 yearly income of those you hang around with.
Now that you say that, that's very interesting because I had buddies that went to Chipotle and only got a burrito because that was when it was like $6.25, and like because they were doing that, I used to get chips and a drink, but when I went with them, I only got a burrito. So I mean, that's
how you spend your money too.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Yeah, no, without a doubt.
Like I didn't.
Yeah, if you're with people, sort of that. Keeping up with the Joneses, do you know what that means?
Yeah.
I've said that to a couple of folks your age, and they have no idea what I'm talking about. You're trying to keep up with those around you, and you're going to spend more than you have, well, you're going to become like them. You're going to dig yourself a hole of debt, that type of thing. Yeah. So,
Verse 24, "He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth. Jeez, Pete, him betimes." So, this is correction and discipline being a sign of and demonstration of love. This isn't beating your child.
Yeah, I don't get caught up on the word rod there. That's not what this is talking about here.
This is correction and discipline.
Yeah.
And if you don't then you do not love your kids.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we need to correct them.
Yeah.
You are not showing them love if you do not correct your children.
Yeah. That's a better way of saying it.
So we're gonna get to this multiple times.
Yeah.
We get to 14. Now 14 has a very interesting verse to start out with. A lot of these have great first verses that really pull you in. Every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish, or the foolish woman, plucketh it down with her hands. So you have within your ability to build your house up with your words, your encouragement, your correction, and you have the ability to nitpick it apart and to pull it down. Within your mouth, the words you say, the actions that you take, you have the ability to do either. And it's the power of the tongue, it's the power of gratitude, and you get to choose. And you live with the results of that. That's what I had on that one. Next one I had was 4. Do you have one before then?
No.
This is one of my favorite verses. I've taught on this before. Here at our church, Brother Wally had a famous sermon on this verse. Where no oxen are, the crib is clean, but much increase is by the strength of the ox. So you can have this wonderful crib that an animal could stay in, and you could keep it clean, but you don't get any of the production from that ox if you don't have that ox there. You lose the strength, you lose the production from that. And the same thing, we apply this to the church. We could have a showpiece of a church here. Oh man, look at everything is just perfect and clean and all. But, if you want that, you're not going to have any children. You're not going to have any youth ministry. You're not going to have anybody that's dealing with, afflictions in their life. You lose all of the things that we're supposed to do as a church. You're not serving. You're not preparing. You're not repairing people. That's what we're supposed to be about. And that's what a church is, not a showpiece of a building. We are the people that's what the church is supposed to be. So
Yeah.
I love that verse.
I have verse 15 where it says, "The simple believeth every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going." Do you believe everything that you're seeing, or are you examining it? You're thinking about it, how it affects you, how it affects others. Yeah. Is it truth? Is it a bunch of malarkey?
Thank you, President Biden. That's his famous word. That's funny.
Verse 17 speaks on anger again. Quick to anger. All right, let's read it. He that is soon angry dealeth foolishly, and a man of wicked devices is hated. So, quick anger shows that you do not have a true perspective and understanding of what truly is going on. You do not have wisdom, and
you just jump to conclusions.
Yeah. You don't think, you don't know what's going on, so you just see something, your emotions get the best of you, and you just go instead of understanding what's going on.
And you got to repair the damage you did afterwards.
Yeah.
And every person's done that sometime in their life. There's some people that, I'm just an angry person, or I just have a short fuse. No, that's not an excuse. You're a human being that has self-control. And know that about yourself and put up the precautions necessary.
Yeah.
So,
I like verse 23.
Okay.
In all labor there is profit, but the talk of the lips tendeth only to penury. We've used this with the youth ministry before when we're working and the people that are just sitting there. Like, we've whipped this one out before.
Get to work. All right. Last one I had, 34, the key to a strong country. Righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, 15.
Another good first verse.
Yeah, this one's great.
A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger.
Yeah.
A soft answer turneth away wrath, but if you come at it and you yell back, it is guaranteed that there will be more wrath.
Oh yeah. You want to diffuse a situation? Be calm. It shows control. It shows you're there not to fight. And it usually hacks the other guy off, but they respond. It doesn't give the other party fodder to come at you again as well in the attack. So yeah, what a great verse.
Verse 2, I thought the verb usage was interesting. The wise useth knowledge, aright, but the mouth of the fools poureth out foolishness.
That is good.
So, in other words, there's no rhyme or reason of what they are saying.
That's really
but
good.
But as a wise person, they use the knowledge.
Yeah. That's good. That's very good. Using specific bits of information. Yeah, that's good stuff. The next one I had was 11. Hell and destruction are before the Lord. How much more the hearts of the children of men? If God sees in hell and sees individuals, how much more does he see us that are his children? That's just a great verse.
Mm-hmm. Verse 13, a merry heart brings a cheerful countenance. Just emphasizes the heart and how it affects not just you, but it has an effect on everyone else. 18,
better. This is the start of several of these about materialism versus a happy home. Better is a little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith. So, we can sell out, but you're going to live with it. You're going to live with the consequences of what comes with that. This is the same thought. Better is a dinner of herbs.
Yeah.
No one wants to eat herbs,
Just herbs.
Where love is, than a stalled ox and hatred therewith. Yeah, you could have table full of the best meat in the world, the finest dining, and yet there's hatred there. Yeah, enjoy that meal.
Yeah. Have
Love
fun.
It. That reminds me, there's a million movies where they show it's always in a castle or something like that, where they have the long table and then the person on both ends, and they hate each other. They hate each other, and
they're just eating like kings.
Yeah, what's a good name for a butler? Niles comes in. Niles comes in, and whoever it is, Reginald, and he gives you he brings the food to you, and he has to walk all the way down. I love that. Really painted the scene there, didn't I? All right.
Boy, I can visualize it. I think of Incredibles when I think of Long Table. When he gets taken by the...
Oh, okay, yeah,
the lava.
Yeah.
Verse 33, the fear of the Lord is the instruction of wisdom, and before honor is humility.
Yeah.
This is very prevalent in my life and position today, coming into a new role. I will not gain honor unless I begin my leadership in humility.
Yeah. We must realize we don't know it all.
And that goes...
First with the Lord.
Yeah.
And second with any area that we want to excel.
That goes for anybody, for anything, but that one spoke to me.
Yeah, sport, you name it. Yeah, that kid that always, I know. No, you don't.
You just started.
Just be quiet and watch, do it once, that kind of thing.
So now we get into Thursday.
Okay.
And we got Proverbs 16 through 18. We see this thing where everything we do is good in our own eyes again. I think that was in 14 or 13.
Yeah.
All the ways of man are clean in his own eyes, but the Lord weigheth the spirits.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish that.
We need to look through that lens rather than our own, because our lens is always thinking that we're right.
I have 1 and 9 as sort of a similar thought. The preparations of the heart in man and the answer of the tongue is from the Lord. And then verse 9, a man's heart deviseth his way, but the Lord directeth his steps. So we devise thoughts and ways, but the Lord is the one that he directs our thoughts. He sets the perimeter. I think of these two verses sort of the frame of God's sovereignty, but yet our free will within that sovereignty is sort of how I frame that. He is the one that directs. He's the one that guides, gives us this boundary perimeter, yet he gives us free will within that to do the things that we would like to do and choose to do. So, and then I have 8 and 19 together as well. I don't know, did you have one before then?
I had 18 and 19.
Okay. So 8 is better, is a little with righteousness than great revenues without right. And then 18 and 19. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Better is to be of a humble spirit with the lowly than to divide the spoil with the proud. So similar as what we said before. Compromise, wickedness, you're going to deal with it. It's better to have a little bit and to live a life that's worth living.
Yeah, it's just the pride cometh before the fall.
Yeah,
that's a famous
The famous
proverb in
yeah.
the world, but it comes from the Bible. I got verse 23.
Yeah, 12 through 15 are directed toward kings and from kings. I think that's interesting. Those verses have been taken way out of context for kingdoms over centuries. If a king reads it arrogantly, they see that it's an expectation of them. Rather than seeing it's an expectation how God would have them to lead, rather they see it as sort of their divine right to do these things. Well, that's not what God was expecting them to be righteous. So go ahead. 18, yeah, you mentioned that.
Verse 23, the heart of the wise teacheth his mouth, and addeth learning to his lips. This demonstrates that it is not something that comes naturally, is how I viewed this.
Yeah.
You have to teach your mouth to obey, not because your mouth just spews like a foolish.
32 goes right with that. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty. He that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh the city. There is an incredible advantage if you can learn to control yourself. How many times do you hear that one too? Control yourself.
Use your head and control yourself. And I mean, it is. I mean, I've seen it.
Yep.
When I've done both,
Yeah, we all have. I called chapter 17 Foolish Friends and Froward. I was struggling on that third one.
I just gave up on titles.
There's a couple I didn't put any, but yeah.
Proverbs 17, verse 6, this is relevant to you. Children's children are the crown of an old man, and the glory of children are their fathers.
Yeah.
The children's children is not the old man part.
Yeah. Pretty awesome. Before that, verse 3, we talked about this last week, but the fining pot is for silver, and the furnace for gold, but the Lord trieth the hearts. So God tries our hearts. He is purifying our hearts. Situations are brought into our life to help purify us. So we need to react properly when we see that.
I love verse 10.
Yeah.
A singular reproof, I'll read it. A reproof entereth more into a wise man than 100 stripes into a fool. A singular reproof affects a wise man more than 100 stripes to a foolish man, or whips, or corrections, or
and
whatever.
Once again, how you handle a reproof shows if you're a fool or if you're a person that's wise.
Yeah, that one, I think it paints that concept more than
the other.
1 to 100,
13 and 15 show how God abhors injustice. The whole exhorting a wicked versus condemning the righteous, that's just, we are seeing this more and more, where you see somebody get up there and they just yammer on and on about how wonderful this person is, and they're just the most wicked person in the world. And then you see a righteous person. I remember like when Tim Tebow was, here's a good, godly man. I mean, great. He might not have been the greatest NFL quarterback, but man, they would just tear him apart. And it got personal. It's like, this is a godly man. I'm just throwing that out. There's a million examples of this, but that one always just ate at me.
Yeah.
So,
Verse 22, it speaks of the merry heart again. Doeth good like a medicine. So we have the importance of a merry heart again.
Yeah. Our heart affects our health.
Yeah.
We've seen that. Do you have one before 17? Before we get to that, a friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. I studied this one, and I had taken this one the wrong way. A friend loveth at all times. A brother is born for adversity. I thought like the brother was there to actually like butt heads with you, but everything I studied on this showing it. No, it's like the step further. You're friends with you at all times, but when that turmoil comes in life,
Your brothers
they're
there?
there for you. Yeah, like
Oh, I
like
thought it just meant that I was born to annoy my sister.
well done.
Verse 28, I thought this
Yeah.
was even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise, and he that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. So even a fool that holds his tongue is still counted wise.
Yeah.
It's just the importance of keeping your mouth.
This famous quote, I thought this was from Mark Twain, but they say it's from Abraham Lincoln, same time frame. It is better to keep your mouth shut and let them think you a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. I love that.
That's funny.
That sounds more like Twain than it
It
does
does.
Lincoln, but that's where I saw it.
Yeah.
That's where he got the claim for it. All right, chapter 18. It's pouring outside right now around us, so if it got darker, that's what's going on.
Verse 2, I thought of myself when I was younger. A fool hath no delight in understanding, but that his heart may discover itself. I took this as I would sometimes go into a conversation, and where I was being foolish, or I wasn't fully engaged in scripture, and I didn't really want to talk about it and stuff like that. And I would not stay in the conversation because didn't want to listen. I wanted to talk about sports, basically. And I would walk away. And my desire was not in understanding. And my heart was not in the right spot. And I was foolish because of that. And I had no delight in gaining understanding.
That's exactly, that's
So-
very good. Verse 3, when the wicked cometh, then cometh also contempt, and with ignominy, if I'm pronouncing that right, reproach. That word means shame or dishonor. I have nothing to say to that other than I wanted to give everybody what that meant. Verses 10 through 12, the righteous trust the Lord, but the rich in their possessions. Followed by a word then on haughtiness, which is pridefulness versus humility. So what are we trusting in? If we're trusting in our possessions, there's a pride that comes with that versus trusting in the Lord. There's humility that comes.
Verse 21 is the next one for me.
Yeah, that's what I had too.
Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat of the fruit thereof. The power of what we say.
Mm-hmm.
Death and life. What do we use our words for? How do we use our words? Are we controlling our words?
I also had this. If you love to control people, situations with your words, you're going to live by the fruit of that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we watch those shows, the Kingmaker, where there's this person that's manipulating every situation. They usually wind up
Dead.
Yeah. Eventually that catches up with you. You're living by the fruit of that situation.
I think it's a smart move for both of us to mention verse 22.
Oh, without a doubt, sir.
Whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing, and obtaineth favor of the Lord.
That is more
Think
than
that-
accurate.
I think that's a
Well
good
done.
verse to mention here.
Well done. Well done.
And then
it-
the famous verse 24. You can read it.
Yeah, a man that hath friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. Back to 22, though. That is, we were being silly, but yeah, you want to change the course of your life. It's who
For
you
the
marry.
better.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, the whole marry up, as Brother Gary always says, it is true. You should, and it literally will change the course of your life. So, yeah, a man that hath friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. Obviously, at this time they didn't know the Messiah, Jesus Christ, but yeah, he is the one that sticketh closer than a brother. Very prophetical there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to have friends, show yourself friendly.
Yeah, it's like the teen or the kids. They're like, I don't have any friends.
Yeah.
And they're like punching people. It's like, no.
When I taught
duh.
6th grade, this was one of my first lessons I taught every year. Because At that time, we only had them 6 months at the beginning, and then they would merge with the 7th and 8th graders.
Yeah.
Eventually, we had them all year round. But I had a set of lessons, and this was top 2 or 3 that we would teach them. Come on, guys.
I'm not your mom. Is that one of them?
No, that wasn't one of them. I was kind.
We got Friday now, Proverbs 19 through 21. 19, I only have 2 or 3 here.
I have 3 lines here.
Yeah.
Several verses are about the behavior of a fool. I'm going straight to 25. I don't know. Do you have one before then?
20, you hear counsel, receive instructions. That will be wise in your later days.
Yeah. Verse 25,
Not
smite
much.
a scorner, and the simple will beware, and reprove one that hath understanding, and he will understand knowledge. Now, smite a scorner, and the simple will beware. It doesn't say the scorner figured it out. It just says those that are simple, they're gonna heed that warning. Oh, I'm gonna get in trouble if I do this. So at least there's some learning there, some correction. Even the simple will learn, even if the scorner does not listen. So that's all I had in 19.
That's all I had.
They were all pretty self-explanatory.
Proverbs 20, in verse 4, we meet the sluggard again. I don't know if
You missed the first one there.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. Now, I don't care if I'm a Baptist pastor or not. Every person needs to look at this verse. You guys expected me probably to, but the Bible, there's not a verse in the Bible that says don't drink alcohol. It's just not there. But the warnings and the principles are there, and a wise person, you're going to steer clear of this stuff. I mean, it's just there's nothing good that comes from it. So I'll leave it at that. We're going to get to it in another chapter that explains why.
Yeah.
Sorry. And would you have
Verse 4, we meet the sluggard again. So, the sluggard will not plow by reason of the cold, therefore shall he beg in harvest and have nothing. So, this speaks on the delay, disappointed of not working for your future, where the sluggard didn't work because it wasn't comfortable for him to work. And because of that,
he's
left
Yeah.
begging during the harvest when everybody else is getting their stuff.
Verse 6, most men will proclaim everyone his own goodness, but a faithful man who can find?
So don't toot your own horn, pretty much.
Yeah, we don't need to tout ourselves. If it's worth celebrating, someone's going to say something.
Verse 7, the just man walketh in his integrity. His children are blessed after him. And I have experienced this firsthand. My dad has walked in integrity. Come on. He's walked in integrity his whole life, and because of that, his children have been blessed after him. And
Well, good. Thank you, bud. All right, moving on to a different subject. So, verse 22. Did you have one before 22? Right.
No.
Say not thou, I will recompense evil, so revenge, but wait on the Lord, and he shall save thee. Now, you find this all through Scripture. Let God be the one that is the avenger of us. Leave vengeance. That is hard. It's unbelievably hard. The Lord will take care of it. We have to believe that. It might not even be in our lifetime, but we know that God, eventually the judgment will occur, even the final judgment, if it doesn't happen here on earth. And we can rest assured that God will make things right. We have to know that.
Mm-hmm.
We have to believe that. So,
All right, verse 29. The glory of a young man is their strength, and the beauty of an old man is the gray head. I just don't know why I didn't mention a bald head.
Are you forehead bald? Or what was that? The 2 terms in Leviticus? There's forehead bald and
bald? I don't know. I don't remember the other one. I'm forehead bald.
That's funny. All right. Chapter 21.
So with this one, I kind of looked at it. I saw the overall picture of this proverb in the book, as it reminds of the outcomes of 21, chapter 21.
Yeah, what
It
verse?
I don't know. It like kind of all ran together with me.
Oh, you think it did?
As the reminders of the outcomes of the different paths we take. Like fools die, wise prosper.
Yeah.
And reading these so quickly, it's hard to. It can get. It's easy to hear the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
But
sometimes that's good because sometimes it rings.
yeah,
It starts to ring. A thought starts to
yeah.
ring true. Other times it's like you feel like a pinball jumping between
And I think
subjects.
that's what was going. And I just had to sit back and allow myself to read these and ponder. And like Proverbs, in my opinion, they're not supposed to be read super quick. You're supposed to read one and then like
Think
keep
on it.
think on it. And this made me sit back because it seemed like I was reading the same thing as I have been.
Sure.
But
It very much so is, yeah. Now, chapter 21, verse 1, I'd encourage you, right next to that, election. Election time.
Which one?
Something like verse 1. I read this verse every time there's an election. I can remember when there have been certain people that have come into office, and my heart was broken because I knew what was going to happen to our country under that person's leadership. And
I remember one of them.
The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So once again, we have to believe in the sovereignty of God. I mean, God used Rome. He used, Babylon and the Persians and the Greeks. He used all those empires to prepare the world for the birth of Jesus Christ. They were all haughty and arrogant about who they were and all that stuff, but yet God used it. He turned them, and the world was prepared. And we have to believe God is preparing us. The end is near, and even though we see it and we don't like what's going on, it doesn't mean we don't fight for righteousness and all that. But we know, in the end, God's in control. And I know I've got some folks that disagree on what that completely means, but that's a great verse. I read every election. I read that verse, and it reassures me. So
I do like the progression of verse 9 to 19. It is better to dwell in a corner of the house than with a brawling woman in a wide house. Yeah. And then in 19, it is better to dwell in the wilderness than with a contentious and angry woman.
I love it. I got those two down as well.
Might as well live outdoors.
Yep. So choose wisely.
Yeah, that's the moral of those verses.
Just because she's pretty, just because you're lonely, those aren't reasons. It has to, we have to seek someone that's a righteous person in your life, and versus settling. And when you do that, you're dealing with all this anger and brawling and that kind of thing. So I put 17 and 20 together as well. He that loveth pleasure shall be a poor man. He that loveth wine and oil shall not be rich. Verse, what did I say next after that? 20. There is treasure to be desired and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man spendeth it up. So a wise person doesn't spend all they have. They look ahead. They store up. A foolish person, they spend everything they have. America, 2024.
Saturday, Proverbs 22 and 23.
Okay, this is a great first verse as well.
A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches, and loving favor rather than silver and gold. I've also been a benefactor of this.
As I.
The name Wells has a meaning to people. Am I going in the right direction here? Did I read this correctly?
I pray it does. There are names that you hear, and generations of people have served the Lord righteously, or you hear a business name, and okay, that's a quality business.
Yeah.
Our friend Ken Bryan has a business. He's going to work with integrity with that,
and he's going to do it well.
Yeah, he's going to do it well. If there's a mistake, he's going to fix it. Those types of things. I could name other people's businesses as well that they're just going to live righteously. And
you have the opposite too.
Yep.
Yeah. And
we won't share any of those.
But yeah, it's just the question is, will yours be chosen or avoided? That's what came to my brain.
Yeah, we need to be careful on that. But at the same time, there are going to be times when you're going to be misunderstood, and unfortunately, that can tarnish a name. But eventually, you got to believe that God will bless that. So.
Verse 4, I thought was a pretty good summary verse.
Verse 4.
By humility and the fear of the Lord are riches and honor and life. It's like a really quick, like,
Yeah.
that's a lot
I
in
had the
there.
one before that. A prudent man foreseeth evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. A prudent person, they look ahead. They look down the course and they adjust. They adjust, and if they need to get out of the, I'm out of here, that kind of thing. Where a foolish person, they just go on their way and get bipped in the head,
Yeah.
They're dealing with it.
Verse 6, well-known verse here.
Yeah.
Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Train up your child, and he will not depart from it.
And verse 15 ties right with that. Foolishness is bound into the heart of a child. I don't care how precious your child is. Foolishness is bound in the heart of every human being, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from them. Here we have training and correcting our children. It's a lifelong benefit to them and you. Doesn't cause you shame, obviously, that kind of thing. But more importantly, you love your child and you're correcting them because it has this lifelong benefit for them to be able to fulfill what God has for their life.
This can be a hard verse, though, too, because at the end of the day, it is the child's choice.
Oh, they have to choose. Yeah.
And, I mean, we've seen...
Yeah, we've seen it both
children,
ways. And it's a basic principle. That's
Yeah.
what when we talked about Proverbs. These are principles. These aren't promises.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you're a failure when your child decides to do something. Because I see folks that only if I'd have done this, only if I. No, you worked your tail off. You intentionally did it. Your child made a decision at whatever age that might be, and so we have to realize and know that as well. So these overall principles are that. So.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's verse 13. The slothful man says, "There is a lion without. I shall be slain in the streets."
Excuses.
Excuses for not working.
This comes up again, too.
Yeah, it does.
Proverbs 23. I don't have anything until verse 13.
Last chapter, landmarks. Verse 28 talks about landmarks. This was part of their heritage. If you're wondering what that means. Remember, each person was given a plot of land by the Lord in Israel, so that's what that's dealing with. You move the landmarks, you're moving the heritage. I asked, are there items in our culture that have that same thing? I don't think there is to that level.
Yeah.
But okay, chapter 23.
I have 13 and 14.
13. I had 1 through 6 dealing with our desire for the riches of the wealthy, and the advice to be content and have some restraint. So.
Yeah. Verse 13, 14, withhold not correction from the child. Again, we have this. For if thou beatest him with the rod, he shall not die. Thou shalt beat him with the rod, and shalt deliver his soul from hell. Okay, we're not beating again, but this is a pretty strong warning of you are saving him from hell. That concept again, where you are saving his life, his soul, from going to hell by showing correction.
Yeah. You have a padded backside for a reason. I'm convinced of that. Yeah.
Verse 23, I like this. Buy the truth and sell it not.
Yeah.
Also wisdom and instruction and understanding. Buy it and don't get rid of it. Buy into it and truly care for it and keep it.
So the rest of this chapter, this is the big chapter on alcohol. If you've ever, 20 and 21, be not among winebibbers, among riotous eaters of flesh, for the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags. Okay, so obviously don't be around a drunk. Don't be around a guy that's just a slopwad, eating and all that kind of in his eating. But you say, okay, well, I don't do that. I'm just drinking occasionally and that kind of thing. Okay, let's go down to 29. Who hath woe? Who hath sorrow? Who hath contentions? Who hath babbling? Who hath wounds without cause? Redness of eyes. They tarry long at the wine. They that go to seek mixed wine. Look not thou upon wine when it is red, when it giveth the color in the cup, when it moveth itself aright. At the last it biteth like a serpent, and stingeth like an adder. Thine eyes, what happens when you're drunk? Thine eyes shall behold strange women. Your heart shall utter perverse things. Yea, thou shalt be as he that lieth down in the midst of the sea, as he that lieth upon the top of the mast. They have stricken me, shalt thou say, and I was not sick. They have beaten me, and I felt it not. When shall I awake? I will seek it yet again. So we see the addiction that comes with it there at the end. This long description, sorrow, contentions, babbling words. Yes, we all know that, wounds that we don't even know, strange women that a person winds up sleeping with because of those things, perverse speech. And then the end, you don't know when you start or not, addiction. What possible good comes from this? There's just principles that if you're wise, use your head. This is not good. I don't care if I'm Baptist or not. That's not the point. Just use your head, all right? And show some wisdom here. And I'll leave it at that.
Sunday, Proverbs 24 through 26.
Do you remember the book with this one, The Slothful's Field, that you had when you were a kid?
If I saw it.
Okay. It was this farmer that had written it for his son. It used this one as an example. I call this chapter The Slothful's Field. But we'll get to that in a minute. 11 through 12 is what the first ones I have. Do you have any ones before then?
I'm trying to look up this book. I didn't see it. I have 7.
Okay.
Get back to it. Holy cow. I have 7.
Wisdom is too high for a fool.
Yeah.
He openeth not his mouth in the gate.
So, wisdom too high, like the fool is so far down there, he can't even open his mouth at the gate.
Yeah.
Where
I can't even talk about this.
Yeah.
Because that's how fools talk.
Yeah. Which one? What was your first one?
11 and 12.
I have 10.
Okay, go ahead.
It says, if thou faint in the day of adversity, thy strength is small. It's pretty self-explanatory, but you were not prepared, and you found your strength.
Not prepared.
You did not find your strength in the spot that you needed it. Moving on.
So I have a blind eye to duty here in verses 11 and 12. If thou forbear to deliver them that are drawn unto death, and those that are ready to be slain, if thou sayest, behold, we knew it not, doth not he that pondereth the heart consider it? And he that keepeth the soul, doth he not know it? And shall not he render to every man according to his works? So God's saying here, if you see the situation and you put a blind eye to it and then come back, oh, I didn't see it. I didn't know that was happening. Be it whatever it might be. You look at obviously the worst situation of this in the world would be those that were around the concentration camps. And, we had no idea. And many probably didn't. But, those that did and just took a blind eye to that, that's what we're talking about here. Obviously, that's the highest degree
example.
of that. That's why I'm using it as an example to help us understand. But that's what he's talking about here.
Verse 19 and 20.
I had 16 first. For a just man falleth, the famous verse here, for a just man falleth 7 times, yet riseth up again, but the wicked shall fall into mischief. Mm-hmm. A righteous man you're going to be knocked down and will continue to rise up and be blessed of the Lord. And there's some other things you could go there.
Yeah.
Do you have 21?
I have 19 and 20.
Go.
Fret not thyself because of evil men, neither be thou envious at the wicked. For there shall be no reward to the evil man. The candle of the wicked shall be put out.
Yeah.
Fret not. You're like, don't be envious of the wicked, because the end result, their candle will be put out. Their outcome is not desirable. Yeah. And long term. And it's that whole concept.
Yeah. I have the last part of 21. Meddle not with them that are given to change. This is a verse that actually, if you've been in church for much of your life, a young man comes into a church, and one of the things we want to do is we've got all these ideas. And I said we like I'm a young man anymore. You were thinking it. When I was a young man.
Yes, young men.
But you've got all these ideas, and you're gung-ho about it, and you want to change. Well, just to change for change purpose is not good. Meddle not with them that are given to change. Just to do that, it causes unnecessary problems in life, in church, be it where it causes animosity. It shows, when you force it, it shows pride and arrogance, that my way is better than your way, even though we've been doing it this way for whatever. If there is a reason for the change, do it. Do it with discretion. Pray about it. Do it cautiously, allowing people to come in together. That's wisdom to do that. Just to change? No, that's just foolishness on your part. So, I had the end of 23 as well. You have
23? There you go.
It is not good to have respect of persons in judgment. So when we allow respect or partiality to cloud our judgment, we make poor decisions.
Do you have 33?
I have 27 before then. Really? You didn't get 27?
Prepare thy work without, and make it fit for thyself in the field, and afterwards build thine house.
So I lived my life off this verse before marriage. Prepare thy work without, and make it fit for thyself in the field, and afterwards build thine house. Now there's two main thoughts here. Produce before you consume. That's the one thought. But the other one is
before you play.
No, be ready for a household before venturing out to create a household. Have a job. Be able to care for your family. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean you're never going to have enough money to care for every circumstance, but at least have a job. You don't go get married and you have no concept of how you're going to take care of a home.
That's foolishness.
Right. So that's, when I was in college, I probably used that too much. We dated a long time, but I was in college. We started dating my senior year of high school, but that was sort of it. And then 30 through 34. Which verse did you have in there?
33.
Yeah, it's part of this whole thing of the slothful.
I went by the field of the slothful, and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding. And lo, it was all grown over with thorns, and nettles had covered the face thereof, and the stone wall thereof was broken down.
I love that word, nettles.
Then I saw and considered it well. I looked upon it and received instruction. Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that travelleth, and thy want as an armed man.
All right, so give me your take on that.
I was going to ask you.
All right.
Because I've heard this before, but I don't.
Brother Wally would always, to the youth group, I can still hear this.
Because I've heard it before.
Yeah. I was a teenager, when I came here, I was a senior in high school. So, Brother Wally was right in there. He would teach a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding the hands. He used that all the time because, and every time he would call you, if he watched this, if Wally Jr. is watching this, you know this, he would, he'd call you at like 9 o'clock or something like, it might even be 10 o'clock to see what you were doing. And he'd always say, did I wake you up? No, you didn't wake me up. He just a dig at you a little bit. But this whole thing talks, it's the lesson of the slothful person. It starts to break down. They're not out there taking care of it. It's unkept. It's grown over. How much little work does it take to maintain something versus, to keep it up, versus then having to completely do this great work to turn something back and to restore it. And it's all because of a love of sleep and a love of laziness, and it leads to poverty. If it's always just this slothfulness, refusing to do things right, refusing to look at the details and things of that nature. That's it. That's the slothful and the sluggard are two peas in a pod.
So for 25, these are also Proverbs of Solomon, which the men of Hezekiah, king of Judah, copied out. So I've heard that a lot of people think that it was Hezekiah, that wrote these, but it was copied out from Solomon. Yeah,
you'll actually see a few in these next few chapters that you read earlier. There's some... Yeah, almost exact, yeah. I had 6 and 7 as my first two here.
Okay.
Did you have anything?
Nope.
Put not forth thyself in the presence. I love this one. Put not forth thyself in the presence of the king, and stand not in the place of great men. For better is it that it be said unto thee, Come up hither, than that thou shalt be put lower in the presence of the prince whom thine eyes have seen. Jesus actually quotes this one in Luke chapter 14. So this whole thought of is don't assume your position. It's better to be asked to move up by whoever's hosting or leading something than to assume and then you get put lower. So the way the homes would be there, they would have the highest level would be, like the front of the table type thing. Well, you go to sit, imagine you're in this big banquet with the king, and you decide, well, my place is right next to the king. And then you go sit down there, and they say, no, I'm sorry, your seat's way down there. How embarrassing is that? Versus being way down there, and the king say, oh, Jacob, come here. I want you right here next to me. And then everybody, oh, look at this. How much better is that was what he's telling here. It's just in life that way. Don't live assuming, have some humility, What
is the word?
I don't know.
We'll move on.
Okay.
It'll come to me.
What else?
I have 11. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold and pictures of silver. So, I don't know. Like if I took this as saying the right thing at the right time.
Yeah,
it's like
this
apples
beautiful
of gold.
Yeah, it's this beautiful thing. I don't know what apples of gold and pictures of silver are, but as an earring of gold and an ornament of fine gold, so is a wise reprover upon the obedient ear. Yeah. The end of 15. A soft tongue breaketh the bone. Mm-hmm. That goes back with the soft answer, Yep. But it's a little more than that. Kind, deliberate words slowly accomplish their task. Yeah.
I have 19. Confidence in an unfaithful man in time of trouble is like a broken tooth and a foot out of joint. Confidence in an unfaithful man is like having a piece of you broken and still trying to function. Yeah. And it is a hindrance more than a benefit.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I got 20.
Okay, go back to 17. Withdraw thy foot from thy neighbor's house, lest he be weary of thee and so hate thee. This is just practical living. Don't overstay your welcome.
I thought that's what that meant.
Yeah, don't overstay your welcome. Leave.
If they say they're tired, that means you gotta go.
Yeah. Leave wanting more versus wanting you to go. Yeah. That's what I had there. 21 and 22 is what I had next.
And 20, as he taketh away a garment in cold weather, and as vinegar upon nitre, or which is a soda, a drink of pleasure, so is he that singeth songs to an heavy heart. I didn't quite get this one, but singing songs is basically like
heavy. Yeah.
A heavy heart.
Yeah, it's just it hurts. If what's going to hurt? Taking a garment away from somebody who's cold. Putting vinegar into a good drink, now it's terrible. So songs are going to, everybody's had that. You've had heartache, and that song comes on, you're just like, oh, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much what it's talking about there. 21 and 22, if thine enemies be hungry, give them bread to eat. And if they be thirsty, give him water to drink. Why? For thou shalt heap coals of fire upon his head, and the Lord shall reward thee. Treat your enemies well, and allow that conviction to start to just build. The Lord's going to recompense you there.
Heaps of coal.
Yeah, I love that. Heaps of coal upon their head.
24, we see the brawling woman again, and being it's better to dwell in the corner of the housetop than the brawling woman in a White House. Than with a brawling woman in a White House. That was like that.
Yeah.
I don't know why I repeated that one, but.
Verses 6 and 7 go with verse 27. It is not good to eat much honey. So for men to search their own glory is not glory. You're constantly looking for that person to give you the pat on the back. You're not getting it. So don't seek your own glory. Yeah. Chapter 26. People are saying amen.
The observations of a foolish man. First one, as snow in summer and as rain in harvest, so honor is not seemly for a fool. So snow should not come in summer, rain in harvest, and neither shall honor come to the fool.
That's right. Yeah. Then we have verses 4 and 5. If you've ever read Proverbs before, you've heard these two. It sounds like it's a paradox here. Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest thou also be like him. Then the next verse. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own conceit. So we got this catch-22 situation here. And this is sort of a proof of wisdom. Verse 4, it tells us not to answer a fool according to their folly, because when we do that, we become like them. We stoop to their level. We become a fool also. But then there's also the situation where you have to respond because to stop the lies or the nonsense from going on. And you got to know the difference.
Yeah.
Sometimes I need to, sometimes I don't. And that's the situation. And great deal about how, foolishness causes harm here. So,
verses 6 and 7, he that sendeth a message by the hand of a fool cutteth off the feet and drinketh damage. The legs of the lame are not equal, so is a parable in the mouth of fools.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, basically saying to trust a fool with a message or a parable is like either cutting off your legs and reaping the damages of it, and having lame legs not being equal. Just good figurative language.
11's a good one. You can read that on your own. Just verse. Do you have that one?
As a dog returneth to his vomit, so a fool returneth to his folly.
Just going to keep doing it.
Going back.
I messed up, but I'm going to keep doing it because I'm an idiot. Verse 17. This is one of my favorite Proverbs. He that passeth by and meddleth with strife belonging not to him, somebody else's business, is like one that taketh a dog by the ears. I always imagine a basset hound, and you like grabbing this dog by the ears and shaking it, and it's going to chase you. And that's probably not a good dog because they're not going to catch you, but they're going to chase you and they're going to bite you. Don't get in other people's business. It's going to bite you in the end, literally. All right, let's go.
13 and 14 are my last ones. The slothful man saith, there is a lion in the way, and a lion is in the streets. As the door turneth upon his hinges, so doth the slothful upon his bed. So it's the whole excuses, and then as a door hinges, so does the slothful turn in his bed, going back to sleep over and over again.
20 through 25, 12 through 16 deal with the slothful and the sluggard, as Jacob just mentioned. And then 20 through 25, words of liars and talebearers and the damage that it causes. So that's what we have there. And that's it. Next week's a big one. We end Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, and we enter into Isaiah.
We may or may not.
We may have a guest, yes.
Have a special guest.
Yes, we do, because it's 30. We did on 20.
And now we're 30.
Now we're going to have one on 30.
All right, my joke is from Richard Hassinger.
We're praying for you, buddy. Recovering from the mission trip. He broke 6 ribs.
And we got to spend some time with each other. And while I was preparing for this, I asked him if he had a joke. And
he did.
He is the king. He is very good at dad jokes.
Okay, let's hear it.
He comes up with them on the spot. So these are...
He's been studying.
Yeah, it just like he sees the situation and he's got a dad joke for it. It's great.
All right, let's hear it.
What sits at the bottom of the ocean and twitches?
What?
A nervous wreck. So that was that was his contribution to the podcast.
All right.
Thank you,
There's
Richard.
a proverb for you. Yeah. Well, you guys have a great week, and we hope you enjoy this. And we love you guys. Talk to you next week. Bye.